Hey fellas, Meat Trapper here. I had a lot of questions on my last video about what catfish cheese is, how do you make it, where do you buy it, all of that sort of thing. And for the record, I don't make catfish cheese, I buy it. And basically what it is spoiled cheese and cheese trimmings and sweepings from the floor of cheese that didn't take or didn't make. You can buy it online from companies like fishnetco.com or Memphis Net and Twine. The problem is that shipping is expensive. It comes in 5-gallon pails when you buy it online, and that gets expensive real quick. Personally, I have a contact here in Alabama that I buy from once a year, and he orders it by the truckload and sends out notes when he has it, and then people come and pick it up. If I remember correctly, the pricing, if you buy it by the 55-gallon drum, is approximately 50 cents a pound. If you buy it by the 5-gallon bucket, which is anywhere from 35 to 40 pounds in a bucket, it's $1 a pound for the smaller sizes. This year I bought 70 pounds, and hopefully that will last me for quite some time. So let's take a look at how we can use the catfish cheese. You can not only use it as is, as I showed in the last video, but you can also use it as a base for making punch baits or dip baits. And basically a punch bait is it's a catfish bait that has fibers in it, and it has almost a dough consistency. And the idea being you take a treble hook and you punch it into your container of punch bait, and the bait adheres to the treble hook, and then you put it on a noodle or a limb line or a yo-yo or what have you, and fish with it that way. The trick is getting your recipe right. You can put anything you want to in it. What I'm going to use is trout oil, blood meal, and cheese. If you don't have actual catfish cheese, you can use Velveeta cheese or spoiled cheese, whatever you have, and you melt it down, mix all the ingredients. Then you got to put some cotton fiber or some cattail fiber or whatever to give it a body and something that'll hold on to the hook. So anyway, let's take a look at how to make some, and then let's put it to use and see what it does. Okay, now when you first get your catfish cheese and open the pail, this is what you're going to see. Not a pretty sight. And trust me, the smell is even worse. But as you can see, this cheese has certain portions of it that are hard and lumpy, and then it has certain portions that are wet and soupy. And what we're going to do is we're going to heat this up on a stove, get it to a consistent consistency. We're going to mix our additional ingredients into it, and finally we're going to put some natural cotton fibers in there to get it to stay on the hook better. Now when you're cooking cheese, you want to make sure you do it outside, not in your kitchen. So I use a camp stove so I can get it out into a well-ventilated area. And even the utensil here is a pot that I bought at the thrift store for $1.99. You don't want to use anything to cook it, to hold it, or to stir it that you have any value attached to whatsoever. This pot stays outside, hanging on the fence when it's not being used. Now the first step is to apply some low heat and to stir it. We don't want the cheese to burn. We simply want to heat it up gradually until it gets to the consistency of a very loose and runny peanut butter, to where it looks something like what I have in the picture here. Now as that's starting to cook down, we want to get our ingredients ready. Now I'm going to use two things in this batch today, the first of which is trout oil. Now trout oil is a thick, black, rendered fish oil, and I consider it to be the king of all fish oils. Now the next ingredient I'm going to use is blood meal. Blood meal is derived from dried blood, and blood is a very common ingredient to a lot of catfish baits. So this is a very easy to handle, easy to pour and measure, way of using blood in your baits. Well, once I've got my cheese melted, I'm going to start adding the fish oil and the blood meal. And I don't really use a recipe or measure anything out. I just sort of add a few ounces of oil and then start adding the blood meal to add some consistency and to tighten it up a little bit. You just sort of have to play it by ear. But remember, the final step is going to be to shred some cotton balls and stick the cotton balls in there to get it to firm up like this. Now at this point I just keep cooking, stirring, and adding shredded cotton until I start to get a thicker and thicker consistency and it starts soaking up all the oils and all the liquids in there. You can see it's starting to take shape. And you just make sure that nothing burns, turn the heat down low, and just sort of keep it warm and keep stirring and folding those shredded cotton balls into your mixture. The final thing is to put it into a container, and here I'm just using a glass jar, and this is going to be the final container to hold my punch bait. Now at this point we're done. What I'm going to do is I'm going to let this cool down because it is hot. It does have oil in it. It's going to retain heat for a while, so I'm going to let it cool and then I'm going to put the lid on it. Just make sure that you have a good tight fitting lid because this stuff stinks to high heaven. Now at this point, once it's cooled down, it's time to go fishing. So let's hit the river and let's see what we can catch with it. Now there's nothing like a day spent on a beautiful Alabama river, especially when you're going to put out some yo-yos or some limb lines and try and catch some catfish. It's going to be a great day. Now even though we're fishing, you always have to be scouting. Now this is an area where the hogs have come down and they have just demolished all along the bank on this bend in the river. And you can rest assured that come hunting season, I'll be back. Alright, so let's take a look at what we got here. We've given it a couple of days to blend in and marry up. You can see there's a little bit of oil that has seeped out of it along the bottom. Means I could have used some more fiber in there, but the top of it looks good. And then all I do, limb lining today. So I'm going to take a treble hook, and I use these that have the little spring on them, and that just helps hold the bait to it. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to punch that down in there, then pack it around the hook until I have a nice bait ball or dough ball consistency. And that's where the fibers, and if you look in there you'll see the fibers are visible. That's where that really comes in handy to get it on that hook and hold it on that hook. And that's what we're looking for. Something about like that. Completely covers the hook, and you can see that's going to stay on there good. And now we'll just tie it off to a limb and do some fishing. Now you're just going to have to experiment to get the consistency that you need and the temperatures that you have. If you look at a lot of commercial punch baits, they're extremely hard. That's designed to keep them on the hook as long as possible, and to me it's just a trade-off. The longer something stays on the hook, the less scent it's putting out over time, and it's got a longer release. And when you're using straight cheese with no fibers in it, it's not going to stay on the hook as long, but it's going to put out a lot more scent. And you just have to play with it and decide what works well for you. The same way with the recipe. This has got blood meal in it, it's got trout oil in it, and cheese. Those are all proven attractors. You can put garlic, you can put anything you want to in it, and you just have to figure out what works best for you in your area. And that's about that. So let's go fishing. Well, here we go. We got a little one here, and this is the only fish that I've caught all afternoon. And you can see he's not too bad looking. It's a good looking fish. I'm gonna let him go. He's not Not quite big enough for what I want, so I'm gonna let him grow up. But it's better than nothing. Well, it's interesting. I've been out here all afternoon and I've caught one fish, and you know, the interesting thing is I'm on the same river in the same spots at the same time of day that I was the other day when I was using straight cheese, and I caught a lot more fish and I caught bigger fish using cheese than I did on the blend with the blood meal and the trout oil and all of that. Now, that's nothing scientific, doesn't really prove anything, but it's anecdotal evidence. Just because somebody on the internet has some fancy recipe with secret ingredients, that doesn't always mean a whole lot. It doesn't always translate into catching more fish. What's going to be interesting is I'm going to remelt some cheese, and I'm going to add some cotton fiber in it so it'll stay on the hooks longer, because this mixture did stay on the hooks much longer than the plain cheese. The plain cheese was gone within an hour because there's just no body to it. So I'm going to do that, and I'll retest it, and it'll be interesting to see if I have different results. But until then, it's bad, like they say, a bad day on the river is better than a good day in the office, you know. So I'm gonna finish pulling these yo-yos and limb lines, and I'm gonna head on back to the dock and get home and see my family tonight. Y'all take it easy.